Hey guys, how's it going? Got our second tutorial about to run. Let me try this out. Alright, so hopefully you guys can see my Chrome right now. The gist of this tutorial is that we're going to kind of go over some CodingBat problems, which CodingBat is like a website that's got some Python and Java problems. I'm not sure if Dr. Moore went over them, but yeah, they're basically simple problems. Some of them are like logic based, some of them are designed around certain Pythonic features like lists or strings, and we're going to do a few of them, and we'll see how you guys do. The way I'm going to kind of set it up is I'm going to show the problem, and I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to try and do it yourselves. And you can pull up the website right now. It's codingbat.com/python. If you guys can all go to that website right now, and our first problem that we're going to try and do is from warm-up 1, and it's called parrot trouble. So, CodingBat basically gives you a problem, and it gives you a problem statement, gives you maybe some sample inputs and sample outputs, and it gives you a little function, and you have to fill it in. So if anybody wants to go to CodingBat, everybody get on here and go to Python, warm-up 1, and parrot trouble is the problem we're doing. So I'll give you guys a few minutes to try and code it yourself. Or actually, maybe this one I should just code it with you guys right away, and we start with the next one. Now this one's pretty easy. I think you guys can do it. So for anyone who's just coming in, we're doing CodingBat problems. So if you just go to codingbat.com and then click on Python right here and warm-up 1, and you'll get to parrot trouble, which is the problem we're doing. I'll post that in chat right now. So does anybody have any ideas for the basic logic that we should use here? It's really simple, but all right, I'm just gonna start on it. It's so let's read the problem statement. We have a parrot, and the hour parameter is the current hour time in the range from 0 to 23. We are in trouble if the parrot is talking and the hour is before 7 or after 20. Return true if we're in trouble. So it's pretty self-explanatory. It basically tells you to return true if you're in trouble, and you're in trouble if the parrot talks between hours 7 and 20. So basically, our answer is going to be the Boolean expression talking and hours before 7 or hour is after 20. And we need brackets around these because and actually binds more tightly than or. So if we didn't have brackets, this would be evaluated first. It would be just talking and hours less than 7. And then it would be ORed with this. but we don't want that, so we have to use brackets. Then we can simply return our answer, and that should be good. Unless I'm missing something, we can try this out. So when you hit go on a quitting that problem, it'll give you all the test cases that it's running, and it'll tell you what it expected and what you actually returned. So for this input right here, parrot treble true and 6, you should be returning true. And since our program actually returned true for that input, then we've passed the test. That's basically how it works. Okay. I've actually got an idea. I think I'm going to see if this works. All right, that didn't work exactly as I wanted to, but that's basically the list of problems we're going to be doing today, plus a couple others if we have time. So the next one on our list is combo string from string 1. So we'll go back to Python, and we'll look at string 1. Whoa, okay, actually first, hold on. Maybe I'm going too fast. Does anybody have any questions about the answer that we had? If anybody's having any trouble with understanding this answer, let me know. And if you guys understand it, also let me know, just so I can kind of get a visual on how people are doing. I'll also just add that in your first assignment, you saw this a lot. You kind of saw this thing where Dr. Moore would already give you a return statement. And you don't like that. I think that might have tricked some beginners into thinking that you need to that you need to return a variable. You don't need to return a variable. You can return variables, of course, but you can also return literals, which means that instead of storing our answer in an answer variable and then returning that answer, we can just directly return this. We can return this Boolean expression. And if we run that, it's still good. Totally works. Yeah, it is that simple. It's pretty easy, because the question just says we're in trouble if the parrot is talking and the hours before 7 or after 20. So that's really easy to translate into Python because it's very straightforward. So here's what I'll do, guys. I'll move on and I will upload all the answers to a folder. I think I'm gonna make an Avenue folder called like T03, our tutorial section, and I'm gonna upload any material that we complete into that Avenue folder so you guys can access it. So I'll put the annotated flowchart that we made yesterday. I'll put that in there too. So let's move on. Our next function that we're going to try and do is from string 1, so back to Python, and it's called combo string. So given two strings, A and B, return a string of the form short, long, short. With the shorter string on the outside and the longer string on the inside. The strings will not be the same length, but they may be empty. Okay, let's think about that for a sec. So, right, so we're given two strings A and B, and we need to return short, long, short every single time. But the issue is we don't know which string is shorter and which one's longer. If A is shorter than B, then A is short, B is long. So we'll have ABA is what we want to return. But if it's the other way around, then we want to return BAB because B will be short. So this is a great example of a conditional that we need to use, because we need to check if A is shorter than B or if B is shorter than A. And they already tell you that the strings can't be the same length. So we can have, if A is shorter than B, return A plus B plus A. Else, return B plus A plus B. Do people think that's going to work? I think that should work. We'll give it a test. Okay, that doesn't work. Let's take a look. Oops. Yeah, guys, my bad. So we're actually checking the length of A. Here we go. Okay. So Genial, count is so count in Python, the function count is used to find how many times a certain substring occurs in a string, which is not really what we need here. We just want to find out which one's shorter, and we can do that by using the length. Yeah, no problem. Cool. Okay, I just also realized that I'm not really giving you guys time. So for the next one, I'll wait a little bit. I'll let you guys give it a shot, and then I'll take it up. Cool? Does anyone have any questions about this? I just want to clarify that these pluses here are string concatenation. So that's when we're basically smushing two strings, like I talked about last tutorial. That's how these pluses are working, because A and B are strings. So when you use plus with strings, it's string concatenation. Just like in this example, hello, hi. Hi is going to be the short, hello is going to be the long. So you're going to have short, long, short. So you're going to have hi, hello, hi. It's going to concatenate all three strings into one string. Hi, hello, hi. If you're combining two strings, can commas be used or no? Commas can't actually be used here. I think you might be thinking about when we were printing stuff last time. In print statements, you can separate values that you want to print using commas. But here, since we want to actually return one string, the string has to be a single string that contains all three substrings inside of it. We do need to use string concatenation, which is used with plus. All right, we're going to move on to the next one. And this time I'll actually give you guys a little bit of time, because that's probably smart. So the next one's going to be logic 1, squirrel play. So we'll go back to Python, logic 1, and squirrel play. And I'll give you guys like 2 minutes for this one. All right, and if anyone has any questions, just let me know. Is anybody done? Does anyone have any ideas? right, I'm gonna start digging it up. So the problem statement says we have some squirrels, blah blah blah. They play if the temperature is between 60 and 90 inclusive. Unless it's summer, then the upper limit is 100 instead of 90. Given the temperature and whether or not it's summer, return true if the squirrels play and false otherwise. So basically we have two cases, right? We have the case where it is summer, and then the squirrels can either play if it's 60, or like if the temperature is between 60 and 90, or sorry, that's if it's not summer. If it is summer, then it's 60 to 100, right? So once again, we're going to have a conditional because we want to do two different things depending on whether or not it's summer. So we can say if is summer. And by the way, when you have to, like if statements like this with a boolean here, you're basically saying is true, right? Like that's basically what's going on underneath the covers. But it's kind of implicit. So when you use Python, you don't actually need to say is true. You could just remove that and have the Boolean condition right here. So we're saying, if this summer is true, then, well, we're going to return our squirrel is playing, like our Boolean value, between 60 and 90. So we can return temp is greater or equal to 60, and temp is less than or equal to 90. And keep in mind that we're using equals because of the inclusive. So it includes 60 and 90. It includes those bounds. And then else, right? If is summer is not true, then it's false. So else, like if it's not summer, then we're returning the same thing, but with 100 as the upper bound, right? So I think that basically covers it. Hopefully some of you guys got the same answer or thought of the same logic that we could use. And we're going to be returning something no matter what our inputs are. Because is summer is either going to be true or false. If it's true, we return this. If it's false, we return this. So we can run that. Oh, and we're wrong. Okay, hold up. Oh, did I mess it up? Sorry guys, I had it switched around. Here we go. So if it's summer, then the upper bound is 100. Yeah. Cool. All right, I think that's pretty easy. Can move on. What's the next one we got to do? We have to do, oh man, this is squished. Logic 2, lucky sum. So let's give that a shot. Logic 2, lucky sum. Okay. Given 3 int values, A, B, C return their sum. However, if one of the values is 13, then it does not count towards the sum, and values to its right do not count. So for example, if B is 13, then both B and C do not count. Okay, this one seems pretty simple too. I'll give you guys a couple minutes, and you can give it a shot, and then I'll take it up. if any of you guys are trying this right now, I would advise to be careful of this little part. Values to its right do not count. So not only does that number not count, but any value to its right does not count. So for example, in this input, 13, B is 13. So B, like neither B nor C count towards the sum, and only A counts towards the sum. So our sum is 1. If anyone is still writing and wants more time, just let me know. Otherwise, I'll take it up in about 15 seconds. Okay, I'm going to take it up. So we have 3 cases that we are trying to consider here, I think. Since we only have 3 values, and we do something special when one of those values is 13, then we only have to really care about when A is 13, when B is 13, and when C is 13. And we don't have to care about combinations of the two being 13, because as soon as one of them is 13, everything to the right doesn't count. So we only have to care about we only have to care about the first one that's going to be 13. So we can say, oops, if A is equal to 13, then we're going to return, oh, hold on. Yeah, if A is equal to 13, then we're returning 0. Because nothing's going to count. Else if B is equal to 13, yeah, else if B is equal to 13, then we're returning A. Else if C is equal to 13, we're returning A plus B. I think that's good. Because like I said, we don't need to we don't have to worry about multiple values being 13 because of how everything to its right does not count if it's 13. So that doesn't work. We do need else. Thank you very much. So of course there's a possibility, like in the ones we failed, notice how all the ones we failed never had any 13s, right? All the ones that we failed were examples where there was no 13, and when I coded this up, I only considered when one of the values is 13. There's obviously the chance that nothing's 13, and we count all the values into the sum. So if nothing is the 13, then we're going to return A plus B plus C. Just like Albert said, yeah. So that should be good. All right, next on the list is rotate left 3 under list 1. All right, given an array of ints. So an array in Python, by the way, they're just talking about a list. So given a list of numbers, integers, length 3, return an array with the elements rotated left. So 1, 2, 3 becomes 2, 3, 1. Okay, yeah, I'll give you guys a couple minutes to try and think of this too. So there are actually a few different ways to approach this question. I think one is definitely going to be simpler than some of the others. But it would involve something called slicing. Have you guys heard of slicing? Actually, a better question. Has Professor Moore mentioned slicing in his lectures? So slicing is like when you go like, oops, I'm not typed in. Something like that. And you're basically taking a sublist of nums starting from the first index and ending exclusively at the third index. Okay, cool. So you guys do know about slicing. That's great. This can be done very easily with slicing. Can you guys kind of see how? If we look at this input and we look at what's going on, every single time it's kind of like these last two elements are at the front, and then we just slap the last element at the end, right? That every time that's what's happening. That's what rotating left really means. So 11 and 9 now become the front, and we just put whatever's in the front at the back. So you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna show you guys the solution using slicing, and then I'm also gonna show you guys a different solution, which maybe some of you guys might have thought of before you thought of slicing. And this is all possible because they said of length 3. If they didn't say of length 3, if it could be of any length, then we would have to code a general solution, which would look probably a bit different. But I think what would work here is you want to return the sublist one to the end plus the first element, no? And by the way, just like you can do string concatenation with strings using the plus sign, you can also use plus signs between lists to kind of join lists. I'm pretty sure you can anyways. Let me Yeah, I think you can. So we'll try running this. It's not good. Oh, okay. So this is not a list. This is a number. This is an element. So okay, there we go. We're basically taking the sublist, starting from the first element, or like the element at position 1, which would be this element, to the end. So we're taking this sublist, right, 2, 3, and we're adding to it this sublist, which it's still a sublist, right, because of the slice, but it's only one element big. It's a sublist of size 1. And it's basically going from the start to exclusively the element at position 1, which means just the first element. And then we're basically smushing them together. So you get this plus this. I'll leave that up there, but I want to show you guys a different solution. Jinya, would it work if you used plus num 0 comma? I don't think so. We can try. Oh, actually, maybe it would. No, okay, it doesn't. Never mind. But actually, what you can do is you might be able to cast this number as a list. And yeah, that works fine. You're basically taking this number and you're just putting it in square brackets, which means you're kind of making it a list, right? But we'll just leave that as it was, a sublist for now. And I'll quickly just show you guys the other way I was thinking of, which really, if you notice what's going on, you have whatever's first, like whatever's first becomes last, whatever's second becomes first, whatever's third becomes second. So you can think of it as like a big swap sort of thing. And I'm sure you guys know how to do swaps. I'm sure that you know that something like AB becomes BA. That's basically swapping A and B, right? Because A sort of becomes B and B becomes A, but at the same time. So you can do the exact same thing with this. We can basically say that nums at 0, nums at 1, nums at 2 become, respectively, nums at 2, nums at 0, nums at 1. I hope that's right. That's not right. Oops, I know what I did wrong. Sorry. Nope, never mind. Oh, we need to them. And we fix them. What if we were to create a new array to just use the values from the original function to make the first value be last? Yeah, that's almost what we did, except we just changed it. Yeah, you would need return. I totally forgot that, Nick. So yeah, this is basically exactly what we did. We kind of just made it first, but after you make the first value be the last, you still have to shift over everything else, right? Or else you're not really doing the problem correctly. Okay, does anybody have any questions about either of these two solutions? These both work perfectly fine. If anyone has any questions, we can take them up before we move on. Okay, I don't see any questions. So I'm assuming you guys kind of get this stuff. Shouldn't be too bad. All right, cool. We'll move on. I do remember I picked out one more problem for you guys to do. Might be in string 1. It's not in string 1. Check list 1. It's not in list 1. List 2. Here we go. It was count evens. All right. This one is good practice for you guys because this is something that you probably use a lot in assignments and like stuff like that. So give this a read and give it a shot, and then we'll take it up. Yeah, Nick, to be honest, that's the most important thing. Like, as long as you understand it conceptually, Python especially is probably the easiest language to get the hang of syntactically. So if you understand everything conceptually, it won't take you too long to get used to the syntax for Python. Especially because in Python, there's so many different ways to approach the same problem and still be correct. And there's so many different things you can do without being wrong syntactically. Like it's a really loose language in the sense that you can really write anything and the code will probably run fine. Cool. Has Professor Moore gone over for each loops in Python? So quick demonstration, like I'm sure you guys have all seen something like this. Like that's very common. That's just a for loop. But have you guys seen something like this? No, Tinson. That's a plus plus is not an operator in Python, which is a pretty weird decision they've chosen to make. They've chosen to not include plus plus as an operator because they believe everything should only have one way that it can be done. And so they think that you could increment by 1 by just using plus equals 1. So they decided not to put in plus plus. Anyways, okay, you guys don't know about for each loops. That's totally fine. We can still do the problem using just a regular for loop. So I think you guys have had enough time to take a look at this. Basically, the idea, right, conceptually, is that we have a list and we want to find out how many even numbers there are in the list. So we can just loop through every value in the list, every element, and then find out if it's even or not. So, oh, we did do for each. Okay, well, I'll go through how to do it with a normal for loop and with a for each loop. But the idea is we're going to keep track of how many even numbers we have in the list. And as we go through the list, we're going to update that count, right? So every time we hit an even number, we're going to add 1 to that count. So I'll do it both ways, just in case you guys haven't seen for each loops. If we did for I in range, and then the length of nums, right? Because we want to go throughout the whole nums array. First, let's actually initialize our count. So I'll say count equals 0, right? We just have a counter, and we're going to set it to 0. for I in range length of nums, so this range is going to go from 0 to the length of nums. We can say nums, if nums at I, mod 2 is 0, right? So if the remainder of that number by 2 is 0, aka it's even, then we're going to increment count by 1 using count plus equals 1. And that's it. We don't need any else if statements, we don't need any else statements. That's all we really care about. Because if this isn't true, it's just not going to do this. It's just going to skip right past it and keep going at the for loop. Once we're done this for loop, right? So we're in tab with a for loop. Once we're done it, we can say return count. And if you run that, it's perfectly fine. So let me do the same thing, but with a for each loop, just in case you guys have gone over that. I'm totally not sure at this point because I'm a bit confused by the chat. But I'll quickly go over the for each loop. So instead of using a range, right, a for each loop would just use the actual list or the actual sequence that you want to loop through. Yeah, Michael, that's exactly what we're going to do, right? For I in nums is called a for each loop. For each. That's what it's called in programming as a concept, right? So for I in nums, and then what's going to happen here is, well, if you look back here for I in range of length of nums, I went from 0 to the length of nums exclusively, right? And it took on the value of every number in that range. But in here, I is going to take on the value of every element in nums, right? So instead of going from 0 to the length of nums, every iteration of this loop, I is going to hold the value of one of the elements in the nums array. So now we can just do if I mod 2 is equal to 0, count by 1. And if we take away our first definition and run this instead, you'll see that it also runs fine, right? So both of the functions that we defined, they both give the correct answer. And they're really similar. Just one uses a for loop with the range going from 0 to the length of the side, like of the length of the list, and the other one uses a for each loop to loop through every element in the list nums. Cool? And there was a question, how would you implement a while loop with this problem? So once again, a while loop doesn't have a looping variable built in. For loops have this I. So if you wanted to implement a while loop, you would have to use a looping variable. Is there a benefit to using a for loop over a for each loop? I'll get to that as soon as I answer the first question. So we could go again, and we'll do this with a while loop. If you used a while loop, you would need to actually check if the looping variable is less than the length of nums. And we need to initialize our looping variable. Because like I said, a while loop, by default, doesn't come with a looping variable. We have to make our own, right? But with a for loop, it comes with it. So we check. We have to do nums at I here. And we're going to increment I every single time, regardless of whether it's even or not. So down here, we'd say nums plus equal 1, right? Basically, the control flow is, as long as I is less than the length of the list, we'll check if nums at I is even. So basically, the value at the index I. If it is, increase count. And then, regardless of whether that number was even or not, we're going to increment I so that we keep looping through the list one by one. Every time we loop, we increment, oops, this is I, sorry. I plus equals 1. So now if we take over these two, if we take those out, once again, all green, which means even the third implementation is correct, right? So I'll put that back, right? Here's our thing. So here are our 3 answers. And that's basically it. Are there any other questions? Right, so is there a benefit to using a for loop over a for each loop? There is a benefit. And the benefit is that with a for loop, you still get to keep track of which position you're in the list that you're iterating through. So Albert, consider the question: if I asked you to program a function that went through a loop and returned the index at which there was a value, or return the index of the first even value in the list. With a for each loop, you wouldn't know where that index is because the for each loop doesn't keep track of the index, right? You would have no way of knowing where in the list you were. You just know what the value is at the point in that list, right? I hope that makes sense. Because using a regular for loop, I is basically what you're using to keep track of where you are in the list, index-wise. So since you know where you are in the list, index-wise, like which index you are currently at, then you can return that, and you can return that value. You can do stuff with it. Completely different from a for each loop where you don't have that information. You don't know where you are. You're kind of just looping through. Cool. That's all of the coding bat problems that we had to do. So unless anyone has any other questions, we can take up any assignment 2 questions that you guys have. But if anyone has other questions, feel free to ask those too. Hey guys, the actual hard content is over. So if no one has any other questions, then have a great night, and I'll see you guys at the next tutorial next Monday. But if anyone has any other questions, then feel free to ask them, and I'll stick around for a bit and help you answer. Struggle approaching. See you guys. Struggle approaching the questions. I don't know what to do. Yeah, that's a pretty broad one. But to be honest, like, the professor has made the assignments pretty tough. To be honest, especially for beginner programmers. If you haven't programmed before, it might be a bit tough. I can try and help you with any specific questions you're struggling with. We can maybe go one by one, but otherwise it really just takes some practice. No problem, guys. Good night. For the assignment Q5, could you please elaborate on what number of weeks to simulate means? Yeah, for sure. So, okay, so this is like a population problem, which means you're supposed to follow a set of rules regarding the population and return 3 things, actually, right? Oh, no. Return, you don't even know how big the thing is going to be. It could be a number of, it's a tuple containing single populations throughout the preceding weeks. So the number of weeks to simulate. Basically, you have to find out what the population is going to be every week following these rules, right? because every week the population doubles, and if it's a full moon, they triple. So the number of weeks to simulate is basically telling you how many values to return. If you have to simulate 5 weeks, right, then you're supposed to give back 5 different numbers, 5 different populations, one for every week that you simulated. So for example, we can look at some test cases here. N is the initial population, W is the weeks to simulate, and M is how many weeks until the full moon. And it basically, M, which is the number of weeks till the full moon, goes down every week, obviously. But then once we hit 0, we go back up to 3. So after we have the full moon, we go back up to 3 till the next full moon. Cool? So if you look here, we start off with 3. After the first week, we doubled, right? After the second week, we doubled again. After the third week, we tripled because there were 2 weeks until the full moon. And after the fourth week, we doubled again. So since there were 4 weeks to simulate, we had to show 4 different populations, one for every week that we simulated. I hope that clears things up. Stinson, part 2, Q5. I haven't actually taken a look at part 2 yet, but I hope I can answer some questions. Give a list of data and a checksum value, return true or false. Oh boy, bitwise, okay. Yeah, let's take a look at this. No problem. Okay, so these are your basic bitwise operators, which you can do shifting, you can AND, OR, complement, and XOR. But let me try and take a look at what we actually have to do. So compute the 4 least significant bits of the sum. When you have a sum, oh shoot, what did I do? When you have a sum, like some number, the 4 least significant bits, okay, well those aren't bits. But these will be the 4 least significant bits. It basically means the rightmost bits because least significant means like worth less, right? So like this bit is only worth 1. This bit is worth 2, like in binary, this one's 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, onwards, right? So as you go more towards the left, it's more significant bits, and the rightmost are least significant. I'll try and actually solve this problem, and if you're still confused later on, feel free to ask a Piazza question, and hopefully by then I will have solved it, and I can help you out then. But yeah, as for least significant digits, that's basically all I really know for now. For Q3A, since Blinky is on Sunday, Monday, Inky's on Tuesday, do we need to check if they played that week to see if Clyde can play? Since they play at the beginning of each week anyway. Please check. Well, here's the thing, right? Is if you really map it out, oh boy. if you really map it out, you'll see that we have Inky, Blinky, Pinky, and Clyde, right? Good night, Simpson. And we have, oops, Inky plays on Tuesdays and Thursdays, right? We have Blinky plays on Sundays, Mondays. We have Pinky. Actually, let's put Pinky at the top because he's the most important, right? He always gets to play ping pong. Plays on. And Clyde. Really, what ends up happening is that Clyde's basically going to play otherwise because of this line right here. Pinky, true. Pinky could play on a Tuesday. In which case you'd have this, right? Let's say we had Sunday, because the week starts with Sunday on this question. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right? Let's say for the numbers here, let's say the Tuesday was divisible by 4, which means Pinky would play on it, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the first thing we consider, right? Pinky has priority. So we give Pinky whatever he gets right away. So we'll say Pinky right here. And then number 8, Pinky as well, right? Pinky instantly gets any date divisible by 4, which is the 4th and the 8th of the month. And then we can start filling out the rest, right? We know that Inky plays on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Well, Tuesday's already taken by Pinky, so we have to put Inky on his Thursday. And we know that Blinky plays on Sundays and Mondays, so we can give Blinky his spots right there. And what's going to end up happening is, since whenever Pinky takes someone's turn, the play continues as if the original person had played, that's basically saying that even though Pinky stole Inky's spot here, play would continue as if Inky actually played on that Tuesday, which means that, for the purpose of this question, Clyde can still play on this Wednesday and on this Friday, because it says that the play schedule continues as if the first person had played. So yes, Pinky does get to play on this Tuesday, but Clyde will still get to play on this Wednesday and Friday because of that statement. Does that make any sense? Rhea? Like you can kind of see how this otherwise might translate to an else statement in Python. You would basically have if, and then else. And you can have elifs, like else ifs here if you want. Cool, that's great. Ignacio, what do you recommend as practice before I blankly stare at the assignment questions? Coding about anything else? Yeah, they're hard. I know. I'm trying. Okay. Yeah, coding bat is good for getting the logic and getting used to some syntax, like. But really, it kind of just boils down to the fact that yeah, it is just practice. Coding bat is a great way to get practice. I'll be honest, as of right now, if you're completely new to Python and maybe even new to programming, I would really suggest asking Piazza questions. I'm on Piazza, and I answer questions pretty quickly, and I try to give as best of an explanation as I can, reasonably. So, yeah, like yeah, I know it definitely is hard for newer people. But yeah, I'm open to help. You can even shoot me an email if it's something more like you need a full explanation. Yeah, no, for sure. Piazza's a really great resource, and I'm there a lot. So, like, if you look at some of these questions, um, oops. All right, well, never mind. We're not gonna look at some questions right now. But yeah, Piazza's a great resource. I'll be there for you. Don't worry, I got you as best as I can. For the practice question of part 2, assignment 2. Let me take a look at that. Is this what? No, it's the bonus. How do we output the dictionary in the order shown in the test cases? Does it not do that by default? You should just be able to return the dictionary. It's alphabetical. I don't know if there's a special way to return a dictionary alphabetically. I can look into that later on if you want. I can make a Piazza post. But I'm not too sure as of right now. So Michael, are you doing it and it's just outputting in a like have you tried it and it's not outputting in the same order? Yeah, it is alphabetical. Yeah, Michael, I think it might just output alphabetically by default. So if you print the dictionary, so let's just do a practice run. We'll see. We can say my dict at cat equals 1, and then we can throw something in that's like my dict at alpha is 3. Or actually, let's just, yeah, sure. My dict at zeta. And then let's try and print it and see what happens. Or let's just print this. Ooh, okay. Huh. Does not print alphabetically. Oh, but you know what though? You know what? I think dictionaries, so here's the thing. I don't think dictionaries matter what the order is. So I think if you do this, right, is equal to, and you do the same thing, but let's swap the order around. Let's put this here, and this here. I do believe, see how it says true? So Dr. Moore just did this, I think, for the looks. Like he wrote it out like this, right? So regardless of what your dictionary's order is, if the contents are the same, the contents are all that matter when you're testing for equality between two dictionaries, right? Because dictionaries are not sequential. So order does not matter. Does that help out? Like if you just build this dictionary correctly and like it's correct, then it'll pass these tests. Yeah, cool. All right. No worries. If anyone's got any other questions, I can answer those if need be. I'll just sit around here for a couple minutes, and if there are no questions, then we'll call it a night. All right, doesn't look like anyone has any other questions, so I'm going to end the stream. Thanks for coming, guys, and I'll see you next tutorial.